Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot be the only one. I cannot be the only one going bald in solidarity with Jason Kidd to celebrate him winning his first Game 1 as head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. Now 1-5 in Game 1 in the postseason after this huge win against the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you're wondering what happened to my live stream last night, YouTube attempted an assassination attempt on my life. On my channel, where I live stream, where my community comes to play. They really tried to assassinate me, man. I got a copyright strike last night. So that's where I went. This means I will not be able to stream. By YouTube's rules, I will not be able to stream the remainder of this series. That's just how it goes. But I will be streaming these games on playback.tv/slightlybiased. I'll put the link down in the description. Playback.tv/slightlybiased. You can find me there. It's just an unfortunate series of events. I don't know what the fuck I did that was so different than anything else I've ever done. But unfortunately, I have a copyright strike now. And I literally cannot stream on this channel for the next 7 days at least. So that throws a wrench in things. So there you go. Let's move on to happier things. The Dallas Mavericks win Game 1 on the road in Minnesota, 108-105. They are now 3 wins away from reaching the NBA Finals, 7 wins away from winning a championship. This game was pretty much what I expected to happen. The biggest lead in this game was 9 points for the Minnesota Timberwolves, just a back and forth affair. And this is how I see the remainder of this series playing out. I want to start by saying this. I don't think this means the Mavericks are going to sweep. I don't think this means it's going to be a short series. In fact, I foresee every single game of this series playing out like this. I picked Mavericks in 7. I'm still going to stick by that right now. There are some things I guess we'll talk about here throughout the course of this video where if the Timberwolves don't clean up on, sure, I can maybe see this being a short series, especially considering the Mavericks already took one on the road in Minnesota. And if they win Game 2 Friday night, well, that changes a lot of things. But I think this is going to be just an absolute slugfest of a series back and forth. That's just how I foresee this happening. Let's just start with the Dallas Mavericks defense. It's where we started pretty much every single game this postseason run for them. Their defense has just been absolutely phenomenal, and it's great to see in real time people really start to pick up on that. Mavericks fans have been saying for months now how good this defense is, and you just can't look at overall season numbers when assessing this defense. And I think over the course of the playoffs now, people are really starting to realize, oh, wait, that's why this player is not playing well. Wait, Anthony Edwards had a bad game. Is he hurt? Is he sick? No, the Mavericks defense is just really, really good. And it was a very similar strategy in this game that we saw in the series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Hey, we're going to close off your driving lanes. We're going to force you to take either long twos that are tough shots or make threes, bomb threes, and threes that we control. By the way, we want certain players to knock down threes. Early on in this game, the Timberwolves were making the Mavericks pay. Minnesota was 6 for 11 from 3 in the first quarter of this game, 11 of 25 in the first half, 25 three-pointers attempted in the first half of this game. That was what the Mavs defense was giving them because the driving lanes were cut off. And credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves, credit to specifically Jaden McDaniels, who could not miss from 3 in this game. He went 3 for 3 in the first quarter of this game. He was 5 for 6 from 3 in the first half. He finished the game 6 of 9 from 3. He's just been red hot from 3 over the past 3 games for Minnesota. And this part of what makes this defensive strategy a little frustrating for the Mavericks is that there's a difference between late contest, inside contest, and funneling shots to certain guys versus shooting drill, open gym shots where you're just wide open. NBA players can knock that shot down. That's what we saw in the first half of this game. But to the Mavs' credit, their defensive intensity in the second half was just phenomenal. And these three-pointers, the contest started to be a little bit tighter. The kickouts weren't anywhere near as clean just because of the pure amount of bodies shown. And it was three-point shooters that you're pretty comfortable with taking threes, especially contested threes. Now, I still think Minnesota got some pretty decent looks, and in the second half, they just went completely and totally ice cold. They were 7 of 24 from 3 in the second half of this game. But this was a defensive strategy by the Dallas Mavericks. 51% of Minnesota's shots were threes. 51%. 51% was the highest three-point shot frequency of the season for Minnesota. And I mean, by a lot. The next closest was 45% in a game against the Lakers back in March. So this was the game plan for the Mavericks, and it worked to perfection. I mean, they closed off driving lanes. When somebody did drive, there was always a body down low. There was always a low man to help prevent a shot at the rim or contest a shot at the rim. The Timberwolves were 14 of 25 at the rim in this game, 56%. That's in the 28th percentile across all postseason games so far. And they only averaged 83 points per 100 possessions in the half court, which is just an abysmal number. I mean, the Mavericks defense was truthfully special once again in this game. Pretty much everybody on the roster deserves some praise for how the Mavericks played defensively. I thought Dereck Lively, who has really been one of the stories of the entire postseason for just how good and impactful he's been. But really in this game, I mean, his impact was felt. He was a team best plus 19. I think this marks 3 or 4 playoff games in a row where Dereck Lively leads the team in plus minus. I mean, his defensive impact in this game was just unbelievable, whether it was being switched out onto space against Anthony Edwards and moving his feet just well enough to force a turnover, or being the low man and deterring shots at the rim, or helping on drives and blocking shots or contesting shots, or again, just using his size and length in passing lanes or in driving lanes to force turnovers. Dereck Lively has just been otherworldly this postseason. I mean, defensively, I don't know what the ceiling is for this guy. I don't know if it's defensive player of the year level. That's saying a lot, but all defensive teams are, I think, could be 1,000% in this dude's future. That's how impressive he's been as a 20-year-old rookie center in the playoffs. Rookie centers are not supposed to be that impactful. That usually takes a while for those guys to really learn the ropes. This is the Western Conference Finals, and this dude's having this big of an impact on this stage in game 1 on the road. And I want to expand on this point a little bit more, actually, because keep in mind, this is a 20-year-old rookie center who, in theory, is only going to get better from this. And you can make an argument that he has been the most impactful rookie in the entire postseason. I mean, I think he genuinely did outplay Chet Holmgren in that series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. To have this impact as a 20-year-old rookie center, a position that's very difficult to learn. This team is 3 wins away from the NBA Finals, and a big reason for that is the contributions from Dereck Lively, both defensively, mainly defensively, but also on the boards, and his ability to finish around the rim as a roller. It's a lot asked of him as a rookie center to be the anchor defensively and play center offensively next to Luka, who asks and demands a lot out of his bigs. Just incredible stuff from Dereck Lively, man. He deserves so much praise for how he's played. Look at this defense right here. The fuck you think's going on here? Hell no. Good strip, Luka. And then, of course, offensively, the contributions from your 2 superstars. I mean, let's just go chronologically, right? We have to start with the first half from Kyrie Irving, who puts up 24 points on 11 of 14 shooting in the first half alone in this game. 24 points, only 2 free throws in the first half, and 0 made threes. So he was just going to work, getting to the paint at will and finishing in ways that really only Kyrie Irving can finish. We've talked all season how Kyrie just kind of has a feel for the moment, and he knows when it's time for him to take over. And the first half was time for him. The first half was when the Dallas Mavericks needed one of their superstars to pack a punch offensively, and that's when Kyrie Irving showed up. And it's just hilarious that 24 points on 14 shots in the first half alone of this game. If you go and you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder series, he didn't score 24 points once in the entire series, and he only attempted 14 or more shots 3 times. So it was aggressive Kyrie Irving that we've been waiting to see, and the Mavericks desperately needed it in the first half. And then in the second half, and more specifically the fourth quarter, it was Luka Doncic time to take the game over. And my goodness, that fourth quarter from Luka really is the stuff of legends. That really is best player in the world shit. Everything that he did in that quarter was just, that's what you want from your MVP, your superstar in the conference finals, putting his team on the back and willing them to a victory. 15 points in the fourth quarter, 5 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep, 2 steals and a block. I mean, some genuinely incredible defensive plays from Luka in this one, including breaking up a lob, being the low man, picking up Gobert, forcing a kick out, and then baiting one of the smartest offensive engines in the league, Mike Conley, into throwing a bad lob pass and breaking it up. I mean, that's defensive player of the level. That's defensive player of the year level shit. That is defensive player of the year level shit in a 2-point game down the stretch. If that lob is completed, it's a tie game. Well, I mean, what an unbelievable defensive sequence from Luka. And just some monster shots with one of the best defenders in the world, Jaden McDaniels, guarding him. I mean, Luka was just phenomenal in this one. And obviously, there's a lot of talk about Minnesota's defensive game plan in this one. They were just living in drop coverage early in this game, and both Kyrie Irving and Luka were picking them apart. And it's just interesting, some of the quotes we've seen afterwards, like Mike Conley after the game pretty much saying, and I'm just paraphrasing here, that they weren't wanting to go and drop, and that was a miscommunication, and that anytime they were in a drop, it was basically a mistake. And I'm like, dude, y'all were in drop like 80% of the fucking game. Like, how does that happen? How is there that big of a miscommunication? I think that is the big adjustment we see from the Minnesota Timberwolves. We saw it late in the game, them blitzing those pick and rolls, putting 2 on the ball on those high screens. But the Dallas Mavericks, we've seen all season long, are comfortable in those situations. Now, it did lead to some turnovers late in the game, and I think that if you're Minnesota, you look at that and feel good. But also, if you're Dallas, I like the adjustment by Kidd of having P.J. Washington set those high screens, because Cat was blitzing and trapping every single time he was involved in it, and it led to some really great looks for P.J., who just offensively wasn't that great in this game. He hit a huge corner 3 down the stretch, but overall 2 of 8 from 3 in this game. But he got some really clean looks, and over the course of the series, you feel pretty good when a guy like that is shooting the amount of open looks that he had in this one. I'm also just not sure about the Anthony Edwards on Kyrie thing. Not only was Kyrie picking him apart in the first half of this game, I just think Kyrie was on one. But my God, you could just tell in the fourth quarter, Anthony Edwards was completely and totally out of gas. And the only reason why the Timberwolves were within striking distance and had the lead at one point was because Cat hit a couple of very, very difficult shots late in this game. But when it gets to the fourth quarter, and I'm going to assume pretty much every single one of these games are close, you're going to need your superstar Ant to not look so out of gas. Like, it was shocking how out of gas he looked in this game. Like, Luka looked better. Luka was bleeding from both knees in this one. How is he bleeding from both knees now? What's going on? What is going on with the knee? Is it the steroids needles? If that's what it is, if it's the syringes from the steroids, then that's great. That's great news. Good job on you, Mavericks medical staff. If that's a scab that hasn't healed, what the fuck are we doing? Is there some kind of infection that we need to be worried about? Obviously, Mavericks fans, we know better than anybody that game ones don't necessarily mean everything. Right? As I mentioned earlier, entering this series, the Mavericks in the Jason Kidd era were 0-5 in game ones, but 4-1 in those series. So I still think the series is going to go the distance. But if you're Minnesota, you got to pick some stuff up, or else you are very much in danger of falling down 2-0 going to Dallas. And if that's the case, then I don't know how long this series is going to go. Because there's a lot of talk from Ant after the game about, we just came out flat. And Finch said it today that, we just came out flat. I honestly disagree with that. I thought that Minnesota came out with a lot of energy, actually. They were making their threes in the first quarter. They were getting a lot of 50-50 balls. I actually really liked their effort and energy early on. And then it waned off as the game went on, but that's because they got worn down by a legitimately great defense. We'll see, man. A lot of heroes in this game for the Dallas Mavericks. Luka and Kyrie, obviously. Dereck Lively was just fucking phenomenal. Gafford, I thought, had a good game. His plus-minus wasn't the best, but I thought Gafford was pretty impactful in this one. PJ and Derrick Jones Jr. played some great defense, as they usually do. Jaden Hardy had 4 assists. How about that? This guy's just racking up assists in the playoffs. That's just crazy. I can't wait to see how the rest of this series plays out. YouTube, you broke my heart, YouTube. You broke my heart. Playback.tv/slightly biased. We will not forgive, YouTube. We will not forgive.